الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. The topic this evening, changing the nation through education, is the motto of my university, the Islamic Online University. It addresses a current situation in the Muslim world today where Muslims have become the doormat, the stepping stones of the first world nations. Muslims are looked down upon, and Muslims look down upon themselves. However, if we look at the Quran, we find there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describing us in other terms, saying, Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You are the best people whom Allah has taken out of humankind for their benefit. The best. Though in the eyes of the world today, we are the worst. And in the eyes of ourselves, we are the worst. But Allah described us as the best. So how do we get back? How can we become the best again? There was a time when we look back in history, we can all agree in the golden age of Islam when we were the best. When people came from all around the world to study at our feet. In Andalus, in Baghdad, we were the best. But times changed, and we have ended up the worst. Or in the sight of the world, the worst. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained the characteristics which made us the best. Because it is not simply a matter of birth. The Western nations look at themselves as being the best by birth, by their birthright. You're born an American, a Canadian, a Brit, French, German, you are the best, simply because you are born there. Your birthright. Allah explains for us why He referred to us as being the best. He went on to say, تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Because you command the good, you prohibit the evil, and you believe in Allah. These three vital principles. You command the good. And the term which Allah uses for the good, al-ma'ruf, it means that which is known good. He didn't say ta'murun al-khayr. He said ta'muruna bil-ma'ruf. That which is known good throughout the world. Not just good in the eyes of Muslims, but good in the eyes of the whole world. وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and you prohibit what is rejected. What is rejected by the whole of humankind as evil, as bad, as not good. Al-Munkar. وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, and you believe in Allah. These are the three characteristics. The first two, we can say, addresses morality. What is good? What is evil? This has to do with morality. And you know, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had summed up all of Islam, all of the teachings of Islam. He summed it up saying, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was only sent to perfect for you the highest of moral character. He summed up Islam as morality. Everything that we do in Islam, it has a moral object, a moral goal that it seeks. Whether it is prayer, Allah says about prayer, what? What did Allah say about prayer? Huh? Exactly. Inna as-salah tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salah prohibits evil speech and evil deeds. Salah, that is the essential goal of the salah. And Hajj, Zakah, Sawm, all of the other pillars of Islam, and Iman. Whether it is belief in Qadar, or it's belief in the Akhirah, or it's belief in the angels, all of it is connected to morality, to create a morally sound individual, a morally sound human being. And if we were to look at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if we look at that time and we compare the Muslims of Arabia with the rest of the world, people living in Egypt, in Persia, in Rome, technologically, Muslims were inferior. The technology of Rome, Persia, the pharaohs was superior. But what did Muslims have? They had morality. This is what made them great. It was the moral principles behind the faith. This is what made Muslims great. And as long as Muslims hold on to those principles, they will remain great, even if they are not great technologically, materially, as the world is today. وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, and belief in Allah. That was the essence of Islam, belief in Allah. If we look at the West today, they have rejected belief in Allah. That is secularism. Secularism is the rejection of belief in Allah. And the leading countries of the West openly declare themselves to be secular democratic. Secular being more important even than democratic. That is the key. Secularism. Removing God from the equation of human life, human society. It's only a private thing. You can believe what you feel, it doesn't matter, because God isn't real anyway. God is only a figment of human imagination. That is what is taught. In one way or another. And of course, once you take God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of the equation, then what happens to the society? They become lost in immorality. They become lost in immorality because they don't have a moral compass to determine what is really good and what is really evil. Their compass is what? How does the West determine what is morally good and what is morally evil? Tell me. I'm asking you. I want to answer.
Based on their needs.
Based on their needs? Okay, to some degree, yes, it's based on needs, but they have a means by which they determine good and evil, which is across all of the nations. The means is what they call democracy. The rule of the majority. As long as the majority of the people hold that this thing is good, then it's good. If the majority hold that it is bad, then it's bad. And if yesterday they held it was good, and today they felt it was bad, it becomes bad. And if tomorrow they feel it was good again, then it can become good again. There's no moral foundation. That is the reality of Western civilization today. And we see it in a variety of different forms. Among the forms, for example, when I went to school in Canada, in the 70s, in high school, there is a book which became compulsory reading. It was on the compulsory reading list. It was called The Catcher in the Rye. The Catcher in the Rye. This is 1970. In 1950, 20 years before, when the book was first published, it was banned as pornography. 20 years before, it was considered so vile, so corrupt, so evil that they banned its sale. But 20 years later, it became required reading for every high school student in Canada. What is that? What happened? The way of thinking of the nation had changed. So what was evil 20 years before became good, great good. So good it is compulsory, you have to read it. Similarly, pictures of naked women in magazines, newspapers, before the 70s, back in the 60s and the 50s, this was called pornography also. These are images now. Pornography. They used to sell magazines under the table, under the counter. It was illegal, these magazines, Playboy and these kinds of things. But in the 70s, in 1974, page 3, that is when you open up a newspaper, first page is page 1, second page is page 2, the next page is page 3. On page 3, in the UK, there was a picture of a naked woman. They called her the Sun Girl. The Sun newspaper in 74 showed in every edition a naked woman on the third page. How? But they said, no, this is artistic expression. What was pornography all those years before became artistic expression. Corruption. It is nothing less than corruption. In the 60s, if you asked the average Westerner, North American, Brit, etc., what are your views on homosexuality? The average North American would say, it's filthy, it's nasty, it's evil, it's bad. And if they're already religious, they would quote from the Bible saying it is an abomination unto the Lord, as mentioned in the Bible. A great evil. And back then in the 60s, psychiatrists had it listed in the list of psychological problems, sicknesses, illnesses, and they had treatments, special treatments for it. Drug treatments, electric treatments, where they would connect up electrodes to the head of the person, send shocks into their brain, all kinds of things they did to try to correct this inclination. By the 70s, mid-70s, it was removed from the psychiatrist's Bible. If you ask the average North American Westerner, what do you think about homosexuality? They were saying now, it's an alternative lifestyle. Different strokes for different folks. It's complete, upside down. And they replaced the sickness of homosexuality with what they called homophobia. What is homophobia? It is a dislike for homosexuals. So those who disliked and despised homosexuals, now they were declared to be sick, who needed to go to the psychiatrist and get reprogrammed. Where is morality in all of this? And this is the most obvious corruption that is promoted on the biggest scale. In Canada, just last year, they passed a bill. The parliament passed a bill allowing the teaching of homosexuality in kindergarten, from kindergarten up. What is going to be the product of that society? You're teaching children in kindergarten about homosexuality. Of course, the way they do it, you might wonder, how are you going to teach a little kid about homosexuality at that age? Well, they have specialized in developing books which will teach them subtly. So what they do, they'll have a book called My Two Dads. You know, everybody knows you have one dad, one mom, right? But the book is called My Two Dads. So the book talks about Johnny, who has a dad and a mom, and Tommy, who has two dads. And they will talk about Tommy's two dads, about how great they are, how they take him to the park and they take him to the beach, and they take him to football games, and they take him here and there, and he has a wonderful time with his two dads. Johnny has an okay time with his dad and mom, but not like Tommy. Tommy has a great time with his two dads. So what are they doing? They didn't say the word homosexuality in there, but they have put it in the mind of the child that it is okay to have two dads. That's how they do it. So this is corruption. Corruption that has reached a peak where it's going right down to the children and pouring it into their brains. This is a crumbling society. I know most young people like yourselves studying in Golders University, getting your degrees and things, you're thinking, as soon as I get my degree, my next thing is, first visa I can get to America, Canada, UK, gone. Believe me, it will be a big mistake. If you're going to get higher education and come back, that's one thing. But if you're going because you think life is better there, then you will find a big surprise. A very big surprise. Because you can imagine, if children are being taught that in the school, what do you think is going on in that society? So, given this state where Islam still retains its moral principles, what was wrong 1,400 years ago in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam remains wrong today and will remain wrong till the end of this world. That is a solid foundation of morality. It will not change. The modernists say, well, no, times have changed. These are modern times now, and people look at life differently, and we, have different experiences and that. No. If God commanded us, telling us that this thing is wrong, it is wrong forever. That is what makes a society great. Its moral foundations are solid, unshakable. But the problem is, much of the Muslim world today doesn't know it. Muslims all over the world are confused about what really is Islam. We're confused. So we might accept some of these things. In Toronto, they set up a homosexual mosque. A mosque, a masjid for homosexuals. These are confused Muslims. In the Muslim world in general, we have this state of confusion. We don't really know what Islam is. So we're not solidly commanding the good and prohibiting the evil. And even our belief in Allah is shaken. We have confusion. Some of us call on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in worship. Some of us call on saints, Abdul Qadir. We have a whole group who call on the Imams, call on Hassan and Hussein. There's confusion there. For many Muslims, we have lost sight of who is Allah. We know the name Allah, but to know who He is, we don't really know. And so we get involved in all kinds of deviations. We wear charms and amulets, believing they will protect us. So, how can we change this situation? We're talking about a situation of ignorance, where customs and traditions have superseded Islam, where we're commonly unable to distinguish between what is Islam and what is custom. How do we fix this situation? How do we correct it? The only way is by education. That is the only way. Where we change our own understandings, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not change